So now I've completely washed the truck and dried it and everything. We've gone from being very sunny to very cloudy in the span of an hour. So of course now we're doing the headlight restoration, and I've already done the passenger side, and this is what the lens will look like when it's done. Now, yes, this part of the lens right here is looks very hazy. That's because I just started sanding this. But this is what the actual lens will look like. This bottom section right here, it's not too bad, but this upper section of the headlight lens was very hazy, starting to haze over really bad. I'm gonna do the actual headlight lenses themselves, seeing these are two pieces another time, but this is just doing a step-by-step on basically what you want to do is you want to, of course, clean it off, take some 1000 grit sandpaper, wet sand, and you always want to make sure you keep the surface nice and wet so that you have good lubrication between your sandpaper and the lens of the light. So that, and of course I'm doing this by hand and out of the truck so I don't get a bunch of dirty headlight lens, dead plastic, whatever you want to call it, hazing, dead plastic. I don't want to get it all over the vehicle. And you want to sand in one direction so that your sanding lines are in one direction and they're able to easily buff out once you get up to the higher grit sandpaper. I've got 1000 and 2500. I know Chemical Guy's website, they start out at like 1500 and go to 3000, I believe, but Walmart did not have 3000, so settling for 2500, which, looking at that other headlight lens, does it just as good. Yeah, the scratches, your final scratches in there, the scratches that you're inducing into the plastic to clean it, yeah, they're not going to be as fine, but they're still going to be very, very small. The surface is going to be very, very smooth, and it will be very, very clean. And of course, you always want to make sure you keep the surface wet as possible so that you get the best results for them. And this side wasn't as bad as the passenger side. The thing is, because of where I park, the sun comes over the passenger side, so the passenger side's lenses get hit with more sun longer in the day. And so those sides were a little more worse for wear. And these were a new set of lenses I bought about 4 years ago. 4.5 years ago. Seeing as I got rid of the old lenses that had those funky little lines in them, or whatever they were, but they weren't good for light output. So I replaced them, got these new set of lenses. In about 4 years now, they started becoming very oxidized. So now that I'm done with my 1000, I will give it a spray down, and we will wipe the excess off, and in feeling and in seeing how the lens, of course, will dry up to be very, very hazed over. But don't worry, we're going to take now 2500, where it says 205. It's just how I cut it so I can hold it in my hand. And of course, you can do this in the vehicle or on the vehicle, or you can do it like I'm doing it. I'm doing it by hand out of the truck. So like I said, I don't get all the dead plastic stuff all over my now very clean vehicle. And we'll do this until we see that the lens is good enough, in which, already looking here, it's clearing up very nicely just after sanding this for about 2-3 minutes. This, depending on how hazed up your lens is, depends on how long it will take. Like mine, like I said, it was still relatively clear, but you could see that it was hazing over. If your lenses are really hazy, it will take a little more time because you'll have to do more sanding on the 1000 grit or whatever triple digit grit you use to get your plastic as smooth and get as much of the dead plastic off as possible. But as seeing as mine weren't as bad, or at least this side, I didn't have to sand as much. So I will try to get everything nice and smooth And already looking at it right here, this is already a big improvement to what it started out as. It's getting clearer and almost looking like it's brand new, except for these overspray paint marks, which when I had the truck repainted, they didn't mask off that well around the lights, so the overspray is a lot, which I don't mind because it kind of hides the headlight housing a little bit where it sits, so you don't see that much. So then this will probably be the last pass I do. Make sure everything is good to go. So now that I've done with the sanding, need to pick that rag up. So now that I'm done with the sanding, I will then now let it dry for a second. Pick this rag up, shake it. Now I will now go over to my orbital polisher, take this pad off, and I will apply the orange cutting pad and use some V34. Make sure it's on there nice and straight. So as you can see, the lens is very hazed over now because of the sanding, but it's very smooth. There's nothing left on it. So now I will take my V34 and place, I usually do 3 drops because we're not using a lot in our surface area. It's not that great. If it'll stay up. There we go. And then I will make sure my speed setting is set at 1, and then I will just blotch this all over the lens. And of course, like I said, you could do this in the vehicle, but because I don't want to get my truck dirty, I'm doing this by hand. And you want to make sure that you get this spread over relatively even. And then you're going to crank the speed up to all the way to 6. So now that that is done, I will take the orange pad off and I will put on my white pad. Set this down real quick. I will then clean off the lens and just using the sanding and the V34, we have pretty much a brand new lens. Of course, there's dirt on the inside of the lens, which just comes from driving it, but our lens is pretty much now, it's smooth, it looks brand new, like it just came out of a box, minus the overspray. But other than that, that's just with a 3-step, well, this will be a 4-step process. I'll use some jet seal to put on there as the last step, so 5 steps total to make these headlights look like brand new. We'll then put the white pad on, then I'll take V38, and we'll do the same thing over again. We'll put almost out of this bottle. There we go. I will then do the same thing as I did with the V34. Make sure speed setting 0, or 1 I should say, lowest speed setting, and then come along and then turn it up. And then turn the speed setting up to 6. Do the same thing, come out here out of the garage, I don't have any echoes, and wipe off any excess V38 or anything. And now I have a perfectly new lens. That's just amazing. All the stuff that I've tried before never looked this good. So this is definitely the way to go if you want to restore your lens and only spend a couple bucks. And then I will put everything back in. And the screaming kids in the neighborhood in the background. So much stuff to plug in for the front end of this vehicle. So now we just push everything back into the slot. Do one final wipe down. And screw it back in, and we will be done with this project. I mean, of course, I still have to do the regular headlight lenses, but that will be for another day. They're still relatively good. It's just the parking lights is what I was trying to clean up. And now we will turn them on, test them, and make sure everything is good to go on them. Now, of course, my headlights are going to be LED, so that's why they're so bright. They're a set of aux beam S4s for anything. I have a video on that. But other than that, we are done. So I'll catch you guys next time.